Everyone. I would like to welcome you all to our webinar today. My name is Isabel. In a few minutes, I will be extending a warm welcome to Edgar. Today, he has prepared the topic, Streamlining Your Contract Management Process with ELO Contract. Before we start, a little more information for you. You will be muted during the webinar, but are welcome to ask questions about your GoToWebinar in the question box at any time. After the webinar, we will of course take the time to answer them. You also hardly need to take notes. You will receive the training materials relatively soon. And now I welcome Edgar. I'll hand over to you the microphone.
Thank you and welcome from my side as well. Today, I will show you how you can streamline your contract management process with ELO Contract. So, what are the topics? First of all, we'll have a look all about contracts. What is a contract? There are many different types of contracts, what to consider during the contract process, and so on. So, first of all, we'll have a look at the contracts. Then we'll have a look at the contract life cycle, the typical contract life cycle in a company. Then we'll have a look on why you should use contract management. What are the benefits of using contract management? What are the things to consider when it comes to contract management? Then we'll have a look on what you can do with ELO contract management, what our solution provides to you. Then we'll have a short live demo where I'll show you how to create the contract and how to work with the contract lifecycle. Then we'll have the conclusion, and then we have the questions and answers. And if you have any question during the webinar, then just write it in your question box, and then we will answer them at the end of our webinar. So let's have a look on contracts, all about contracts. What is a contract? How many different types of contracts do we have? And more. So we have in our company different contract types. We have inbound contracts or outbound contracts. The outbound contracts we create, inbound contracts we get. Then we have contracts with no term. So, for example, a sales contract has no fixed term, it has a date on it, and that's it. Or we have contract with a fixed term, like a service contract for the multifunction device, which is in our office. And then we have contracts which bring us money and contracts which cost us money. So those are some of the different contract types which you have in your company. But the main thing why you should use a contract management solution is you don't have an overview of the contracts in your company. So there are many contracts in every company, and nobody has an overview without some sort of contract management. So a typical contract life cycle starts like this. You create the contract or the contract is created. Doesn't matter who creates the contract, you will get it in some point, when it comes to the negotiation of a contract. Then you have to approve the contract. Somebody has to sign the contract, then the contract is executed. And after this, you should keep track of the contract. Maybe it renews itself, or you have to renew it after a defined period of time, or you terminate the contract because you don't need it anymore. So that's a typical contract life cycle, from the creation to renewal or termination. And there's some things which we have to consider during this process. So when we create the contract, we should use existing templates. We shouldn't invent the contract every time when we create it new. No, we should use existing templates. And maybe you have templates in your company where you have defined what's in the contract, what the people have to sign. Then when it comes to negotiation, then it should be traceable, because why has the contract changed? Who said that we should change the contract? And this is important when it comes to traceability afterwards, when you want to know who has done what with the contract. Then we have the approval process. And normally it takes a very long period of time until the contract gets approved and then gets signed. So that's not something which happens tomorrow. This can take several weeks until we get the contract back and then it's signed. And then when it comes to the execution, well, we want to know what are the monthly or the yearly costs, or what is the monthly or the yearly revenue. Would be interesting for us, not for the single contract, but for the contracts overall. Then we have to keep track of the contract. We should get automatic notifications when there is a date when we should terminate the contract. Then we should get an automatic notification, or when it's an automatic renewal, then I want to get an automatic notification as well. So then I can have a look on the contract and then I can decide, should we renew it or should we terminate it? When it comes to the renewal, is it automatically renewed or do we have to do something? And when it comes to the termination, then when can we terminate the contract? Maybe we have a fixed date for this. Then I want to get the notification. So those are the things which you have to consider when it comes to contracts in your company. From the creation to the termination, there's some things which you have to think of. And there's some reasons why you should use contract management as well. So first of all, on average, it takes 3.4 weeks to approve a contract in a company. And that's not a number which I said, that's a number which Forrester found out. So it takes up to 3.4 weeks, or no, not up to, on average, it takes 3.4 weeks. That's nearly 20 days to approve a contract. That's a very long period of time. What are the reasons for this? Well, maybe 3 people have to look on the contract, or nobody has time to approve a contract, or, well, yeah, I got the notification, but I forgot or something. So it takes up to 3.4, no, on average, it takes 3.4 weeks to approve a contract for several reasons. The next thing is, more than 2/3 of the companies worldwide can't find 10% of the contracts. So think of it. You have some contracts. There are some numbers. A typical contract or an average contract is about $70,000 or something. And you can't find 10% of your contracts. Nobody knows where they are. They've lost them, or nobody knows where they filed the contract because they don't have an overview. And the top 2,000 Fortune companies have 20,000 to 40,000 contracts in their company. That's a huge amount. When I read this, I thought, okay, I'm so happy that I'm not a top 2,000 Fortune company, because then I don't have to handle 20,000 to 40,000 contracts in my company. But do you know how many contracts are in your company? And that's when it comes to contract management with ELO. Because with contract management with ELO, you get an overview on the contracts in your company. You know how many contracts you have. You know when to terminate them, when to renew them, and so on. So what can you do with ELO contract management? Well, it's for contract management. it's for transparency and compliance reasons. You can control the contract lifecycle with automatic notifications, and you can see with the dashboard when the contract is started, when it ends, and so on. And you can make some analysis in real time. So with ELO contract, you can follow the complete contract lifecycle from the initiation to the termination. So when you initiate your contract, they are generated automatically, including some clauses which you have when it's an outbound contract. Then it comes to contract management, because all contracts are stored in one place. You know where 100% of your contracts are, even if you don't have 20,000 to 40,000 in your company. But you know where they are because you have a single point of information where you know that the information is stored. You can configure different contract terms, use reminder options to get automatic notifications on renewals or terminations. And you can monitor all contracts in the dashboard. You can see the deadlines in the timeline view, and you can do many things. So the things what you can do with ELO contract, we'll now have a look at it. So what we see here is our presentation environment, and I've prepared it the way with one employee. She's called Charlotte Bennett. She's the lawyer of our company, and she's responsible for the contracts. And she uses the ELO contract management solution in her ELO Java client, which we can see here. The first thing where we will have a look at is the so-called dashboard. The dashboard gives us an overview of the contracts in our company and can be found here in this tile. And when we click on the tile, then the dashboard opens. So what can we see in this dashboard? First of all, we see all contracts in our company. We have different states of the contract lifecycle here. So we have 1, which is a draft. We have 0, which are under review. We have 5 that are approved, 0, which are in negotiation, 6 concluded, 2 are terminated, 3 have ended, and 0 are cancelled. So with those tiles up there, we can, for example, set the filter, and well, we can have a look at our concluded contracts if we deactivate those. And then you can see that we have only 3 more contracts down here. And when we activate them, then we can see all our contracts. The view which we can see here is the so-called timeline view. So we see that the green stripe means that it's active. Then the orange section means that we get the notification that we can terminate the deadline, terminate the contract. And when it's red, then this is the expiring of the contract. So we can see that this contract isn't active anymore because we're in September and it ended at the end of June. Then we have maybe a sales contract here as well because there's no timeline. We have a leasing contract, cleaning contract, and so on. What we can do here is we can have a look at, for example, the service contract. When we click on our service contract, then we can see that it's a service contract with ELO. It's an outgoing contract. It is concluded, risk classification normal. Charlotte Bennett is responsible, and the contract date is the 20th of October 2020. Then we have some information about the terms. We have a fixed term contract. It started on November 1st, 2020. It lasts for 1 year and it extends automatically for 1 year if it isn't terminated. So theoretically, the contract would end, or the next possible termination date would be October 31st, 2024, because we have a 3 months termination period. On the last one ended at the end of July, so they didn't terminate it, so it extended automatically. And we get a reminder 3 weeks before the termination date is reached. In this case, we will get the reminder on July 10th, 2024. Then we have the contract partner. It's, oh, that's our contract. It's good. We are the contract partner in this case of Contilo Corp with address, street, and so on. No financial information here because nobody typed them in. And then we have the cash flow information. We have an initial fee of 200 euros, and we have a monthly rate of 350 euros starting with November 1st. And that's in total a contract for 17,000 euros. So that's the details of a contract, and you can show every detail of a contract in here if you have the sufficient rights for it. For example, we could have a look at the building cleaning, which should have another cash flow, and it started on January 1st, 2012, and so on. So that's the dashboard for the contracts. You can change the view here as well. This is the timeline view where you can see the active time and the notice period and the expiring time of a contract in an overview. But we can change it as well. We can change it, for example, to a list view. Then, well, we get the list view here. Or we change it to a calendar view where we then can see what's happening when, for example, at the end of July, one contract has ended, and this was the service contract for our multifunctional printer. So different views for the dashboard to get an overview over the contracts. What you can do as well, you can define different dashboards in the business solution ELO contract. So we have here all contracts, but we can change it to, for example, partnership agreements. And then we only are able to see the partnership agreements which exist in our company. And we have 3. 1 isn't active yet, and 2 are active. So that's the dashboard to get an overview of the contracts. And if you have every contract in here, you even can create a dashboard for every department in the company for the contracts which are relevant for them, or for employees in a department when they are responsible for the contracts. But one thing is, well, how do we get the contracts in there? So to get a contract in there, you can select a tile in the My ELO section for this, which says new contract, and it does what it says. It creates a new contract. And when we click on it, then a new window opens, and then we have to select a template for the contract. So what do we want to do? Let's say we want to create an outgoing partnership agreement contract with a company. They want to get partner for our company because we sell many things in Contilo Corp. So we have different templates for the contracts, and those templates are normally the contract types which are available in your company or which exist in your company. For example, every company has an employment contract or a leasing contract, but maybe there is a different contract type which isn't in the list. Then it can be created. And that's not rocket science. That can be done by somebody who knows what to do in your company. So I wanted to create a partnership agreement contract. It's an outgoing contract, and I want to create a contract document as well. So then I click on the partnership agreement. And then I have, the first thing is I have to give it a name. I'll give it a name later on because I don't know the contract partner yet. So the category is a partnership. The type is a partnership agreement. It's an outgoing contract. The status is draft because, well, I didn't type in something here. And if we would have a physical filing location, then I could type in here something. Those are the information of our company. Our company code is 1000. That's Contilo Corp. Contract number is generated automatically. And if we would have an external contract number, we could type it in here. I am responsible as Charlotte Bennett. Well, there's some more information available. For example, the department, let's say it's for the sales department. Do we have a sales? Yes, we have. So it's for the sales department. Who's responsible? On the sales side, this would be William Johnson. And then we have to enter contract date as well. So let's say the contract is signed or will be signed on, or will be active. No, let's say the contract date is today, because the active date we can change, or we can enter in another tab. And then we have some information about the payment methods, where I don't change anything, because that's something which is defined in the template for the contract. Then we have the contract term. And there we have the field for when does the contract start. Let's say it starts on the 1st of October. It has a fixed term, 1 year, and the extension period is another year, and it extends automatically. So the contract would end on September 30th, 2024, when it is terminated 3 months earlier. So the next possible termination would be end of June next year. It isn't terminated because it's a new one. And then we have a reminder period, 6 weeks, where we get the reminder. So we will get the reminder 6 weeks earlier. That's a little bit long, let's say 3. And then you can see the date changes as well. So I get the reminder 3 weeks earlier. And those are things which are defined in the template. For example, when I use the template for a sales contract, which has not a fixed term, which has no term, then I can't see those fields. So when I click on no term, then I only get the field for the contract date. And I hope my information is, yeah. So that's the contract term. No term, fixed term, or permanent, with some information which you have to provide, or which is defined in the contract template as well. Then we have the contract partner, and then I have to select a contract partner from my list. So let's say it's not an airline. Okay, that's the company in Bartatan, which makes it much easier for me. This could be automated as well, so that the name is created automatically from the type and the contract partner. In my case, it's just a presentation environment. So this is the information for the contract partner. And then we can define who's responsible for this. Let's say it's Jonna Kern. She works for Eiffel Pills. And she's responsible on the other side of the contract, on the contract partner's side. And if we would have entered some financial information, then you could find them here. And then it comes to the cash flow. So let's say a partnership agreement has an initial fee, which we saw earlier as well. Initial fee, which is only one time, and it's they have to pay it until 1st of October, and the amount let's say 350 euros. The currency could be changed, but in my case it's only euros. Then we have a monthly fee, which starts on October 1st as well. Then it's not one time, it's monthly, and the monthly fee, let's say it's 200 euros. So in the first year, this contract costs about 2,750 euros. Those things can be defined in the template as well. For presentation reason, I always show you how to fill it out, because then you can see the total cost of the contract in the first year, or for the period of time when the term ends, because there can be contracts which last for 3 years, 4 years, and so on, and then the total amount would be higher. So what have we done? We have given it a name, entered some details for this. We defined the contract terms, we defined the contract partner, and we defined the cash flow for the contract. And then when we click OK, the contract is created, but not the contract document. Because the contract document, in my case, we have to create by clicking on Create Document. So the contract is created and is filed in our repository in Partnership Agreements, E for Eiffel Pils LLC, and there we have the Partnership Agreement Eiffel Pils. There we have some subfolders in here where we can then file a contract document, the correspondence, emails, invoice, termination, and so on. And that's something which is defined in the contract template as well. Because when we have a look at another contract, let's say we have here a sales contract, then we have a different filing structure because it's a sales contract. So what can we do with this contract which we just created? First of all, I would create a new contract document. The contract documents are filed in the repository as well, and there are some templates which we can use for our contracts. Let's say they are existing templates which our company used earlier when they didn't use Business Solution ELO contract, and we took them and they can reuse it with our business solution as well. Or you can create your own templates when you start working with the Business Solution ELO contract. So we select our partnership agreement, then we click on Create Document, and then we have to select the template which is available in our environment. So we have here the partnership agreement, and then we click OK. And then a new window opens where we can define some more things. For example, a name, who's responsible for this. And then we can add some contract clauses. Contract clauses are used for additional things which we want to have in our contract. So for example, we want to have the marketing activities in our contract, or the contract clause for the marketing activities, and the payment of the partner fee. And here we get an overview what we're talking about. So that's just the contract data which we typed in earlier. But for the creation of the document, this is important. The first step is important. And then we click OK, and then the document is created. So here you see the document, which is now created, the partnership agreement Eiffel Pils between Eiffel Pils LLC and Contilo Corp. And that's the information which is in the contract. Unfortunately, my Word isn't activated, but we can preview the document here as well. So that's the contract template, the first part for the signature. Then that's the contract clause for the marketing activities. And that's the contract clause for the payment of the partner fee. So this contract document is created just with a few clicks, and it's checked out, so we have to check it in, but we didn't edit something here as well. So we created a contract, we created a contract document. The next thing what we have to do is somebody has to approve the contract document. And in my case, I will send it to our management group because they have to have a look at it to approve the contract so that we can send it to our partner. For this, I can click on Initiate Approval. And I can leave some instructions in here. New partnership agreement with Eiffel Pills. Please approve. And the first step, which is predefined in Initiate the approval, is we will send it to our management group, which is mandatory, which can be configured as well. We could add another step here as well. So we could add another group or user. We could, for example, send it to the sales group as well. Then they would get it for the approval as well. But for presentation reason, let's do only management. So we left an instruction, and then we have the steps in here. Management has to approve the contract, and only one employee in the group has to approve the contract. And remember, it takes up to 3.4 weeks to approve a contract. In my case, it just takes seconds, because when I now click OK, then the management group will get the task in the task section, and they have to approve the contract. So for this, we'll change to our CEO, Daniel Cooper. He's CEO of Contigo Corp, and he's in the management group, and he should, in the best case, receive the task in his task section. Let's have a look at our task section when I'm able to click. And here's our contract. And here's the approval for our contract. And there we can see, first of all, we have to accept the workflow, because then I say, okay, it's mine. We can see the comment, new partnership agreement with Eiffel Pills, please approve. And then we can have a look at the contract data as well, which we have entered. And we can have a look at the contract document as well, which is filed here. And then we can leave a comment and say approved. And then we have to click on approved, or we could add another step as well when I say, okay, no, sales department should have a look at it. We could add another step, but in this case, it's approved because it fits everything, nothing wrong in it. So we will click on approve, and then I have approved the contract. So that's it, was what Daniel Cooper does the whole day, approving some contracts. Back to Charlotte Bennett. And now when we refresh, we can see that the status of the contract has changed. It was previously draft, now it's approved. And when we go back to our dashboard for the contracts, then we should see our contract somewhere. It takes some time. Here it is. And here we can see our contract details And in the dashboard, it is shown with the correct lifetime of the contract, with the active phase, and then the notification, and then the expiring time of the contract. So what we could do, or some more things, what we could do with our contract. For example, we could sign it digitally with, for example, ELO for DocuSign or some other signature which is available in your company. We could create a cover sheet for the contract. That's important when it comes to inbound contracts which we get on paper. Then we can create a cover sheet for this. We can scan it, and then we can start with the contract in our contract management solution. In this case, the presentation ends here, because how to sign a document would be possible here, but it's not configured. And we have only an outbound contract, so we don't have to create a cover sheet. So things what you can do with ELO contract. It makes it possible for you to keep track of all contracts. So all contracts are in one place: inbound contracts, outbound contracts, different contract types. You get automatic notifications. You know where to look at, so you know where your contracts are. You get reminders on time when you have configured it the right way or typed in the right way. It's a logical filing structure for each contract type, or each for the different contract types. You can create a different filing structure, or you can create the same filing structure for every contract type as you need it. It's secure archiving, so you can define who has access to the contracts and who doesn't have access to your contracts, because it's secure digital archiving. You get an overview over the contracts which you didn't have earlier without the solution, because 10% you don't know, or you don't know where 10% of your contracts are. And you can connect the dots together. So you have an overview of the different contract types. You even know how much it costs for, let's say, service contracts, or how much you get for, let's say, partnership agreements, as we saw in our example earlier. So you get an overview, you know every detail of the contract, and you know where to look at. So it increases the contract visibility. You can use existing data and templates for working with ELO contract. For example, when you have your customers' data somewhere in an ERP or CRM, then you can reuse those data as well. Or when you have some templates for your contracts, then you can reuse them with the business solution ELO contract. You can expand the templates and clauses by yourself. So you can create your own clause for the different contract types, for example. You won't miss any deadlines in the future, because you get an automatic notification. You have an up-to-date overview of the contracts, and it reduces business and regulatory risks, because it's the first time where you know how many contracts you have in your company, and maybe how many contracts are useless in your company, for example. So that's it. That's why you should use the ELO contract for managing your contracts in your company. And if you have any questions, there are no questions so far, then it's now time to ask the questions. And if there are no more questions, then I don't have to deliver the answers, and I can say thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Edgar, for this great presentation. Now I would like to show you our upcoming webinars. In just a second. Yes. You can register via the following link on the website elo.com/webseminar. Please keep in mind you can register up to 1 hour before the webinar starts. Thanks again to everyone who attended today. I wish you a great day. Until next time. Goodbye.